Yeah, so if you by some sheer luck of curiosity clicked on this video, which is the equivalent of Avengers winning once against Thanos out of 14 million other instances, then yeah, you need to hold on to this video because I actually watched this show unlike most people's, and I'm going to give you my review without any biases whatsoever. If you think that I'm going to hate on this show for LGBT representation or any other baseless reasons, then you're free to watch any other countless videos on YouTube. And if we're being honest, you don't even need to watch more than 2 of those videos, because if you watch one, then the next 10 videos have the exact same points. If you actually want to watch a video with a different perspective on this show, then this video is for you. And since I need to give you a rundown of the last 3 episodes, which can take a couple of minutes, if you don't want that recap and just want to hear my thoughts on this show, skip to this point in the video. That said, let's get started with the recap. In the 4th episode, Riri analyzes the torn piece of the Hood's cloth and thinks that it's magic, so goes to her mom's friend's house, who is a dropout from Kamartahaj but is still enough knowledgeable to know that whatever Riri has is extremely dangerous, so she throws both of them out. Riri has a confrontation with her mother and she leaves in her suit and has a panic attack similar to how Tony Stark also had. Natalie, her AI, goes to bring Xavier to Riri to potentially cheer her up. When Xavier finds out that Riri made an AI version of his dead sister, like any reasonable person, he freaks out, tells Riri to delete her and leaves. Riri, who actually contemplates that for a second, makes Natalie mad, so she also leaves. So Riri is left alone. On the other hand, Ezekiel is in prison and obviously very mad at Riri for getting him in there. Riri visits him and apologizes for her stupidity at leaving the biomesh that got traced to him. Then the Hood visits him in prison and ends up recruiting him in his gang as Riri's replacement. They end up implanting Ezekiel's technology into his body, but the control remains in Parker's hands. In the 5th episode, Hood's gang steals Riri's suit. Riri ends up meeting with Zelma, who tells her that the Hood probably came from Dormammu. While they're talking, they get jumped by Hood's gang. Riri is able to fend them off, but while fighting, Riri explains to Clown that the Hood had murdered Rampage, who Riri had replaced in their gang. After that, Zeke shows up and is easily able to beat Riri in her suit in a hand-to-hand combat mostly. He ends up sparing Riri and tells her to leave Chicago. Riri goes home and her mother confronts her again and asks why she's so obsessed with building a suit of armor. Riri finally admits and says that she has to protect her family because she froze when her best friend and her stepfather were expired in front of her. Her mother helps her by bringing them to her stepfather's garage and gives Riri their car. Riri, with help from her family and friends, is able to turn that car into a suit of armor. With Zelma's help, she makes that torn piece of Hood's cloak into the main power source for her armor, but doing that for some reason erases Natalie. Back at the Hood's hideout, Clown finally confronts Zeke about Rampage, and Parker admits that he did expire Zeke and he ends up firing the whole gang. Then Parker forces Ezekiel to help him break into his dad's mansion and makes him sign the contract, which makes Parker become a major shareholder in his dad's company and will also get his mansion as well. 6th episode starts with a flashback of Parker, aka the Hood, attempting to steal from his father, which goes bad and he runs from the police, where he runs into the hooded man. The hooded man asks Parker what he wants and he says that he wants money and power. Then the hooded man, who is not so hooded anymore, gives the hood to Parker. In the present, Parker calls upon the hooded man again and tells him that he didn't fulfill his promise. Even though he has all the money, Parker still feels empty. On the other hand, Riri tries several times to bring back Natalie, but she can't. So she decides to go and deal with Parker. She goes to their hideout to find Zeke waiting for her. They have their little spat until Riri is able to reset his administrative permissions by uh, kicking him in the nuts, I suppose. After that, Riri goes downstairs to have a very anticlimactic fight with the Hood and ends up beating him. She takes his hood, and as she is leaving, she runs into the hooded man. They have their little discussion, and he offers to bring Natalie back, and well, Riri accepts the proposition, thus ending the show on a cliffhanger. There is also this end credit scene where Parker goes to that magic shop and ends up speaking with Zelma, says that he needs big magic help, whatever the hell that means. And well, that's where this show ends. Now let's talk about what I think about this show as a whole. Well, I think it's good. In fact, better than most shows I've seen before from Marvel. Because most shows don't even have a good consistency of quality or story. The characters do whatever the plot needs them to do without writers thinking too much about how it affects the character's growth or the lack of it. In this show, they took Riri Williams, who was a very disliked character from Wakanda Forever, and gave her so much more character depth. Most people on YouTube bashing on this show gloss over how Marvel made Riri a likable character with good motivations. If you saw the trailers where Riri looks overconfident, entitled, and where she says that she needs to build something iconic, well, we get clarity about that in this show. Because every time when Riri was confronted with the question why she wants to build a suit of armor, she just says because she can, which is obviously not a good answer. But then after losing everything, even her armor, and being at her lowest, she finally tells her mother that she's building the armor so that she can protect her family. She thinks it was her fault that her stepdad and her best friend passed away because she froze. Because she was afraid. If only she had called the paramedics, and maybe if they got there a second earlier, maybe they could have saved them. But she froze. And she does not want to let that happen ever again. And personally, these are the storylines I resonate with. Having an entitled character doing something just to look good? No one likes that. But that's what the trailers show, and that's what most people are criticizing Riri for. And then they gloss over this scene in this show saying, well, some drama happened here and there and it's too boring to mention. Like, what the hell do you mean? Explaining the entire motivation of a character is boring drama to these guys? But no, these guys are intentionally ignoring this so they can just continue this hate train for this show. I'm genuinely surprised how Marvel is still capable of making a likable character. Moving on to Ezekiel Stane, I liked his character. I like that he's a good person at heart. Even though he is accidentally betrayed by Riri, he still spares her life because he is just a good person. Now from this point on, I want to talk about the things I didn't like so much about this show, so buckle up for that. What I don't like is that Riri had to kick Ezekiel in the nuts to reset his control that Parker had on him. And you could say, well, I see this is just done for a comedic effect. Well, it doesn't seem that way because Marvel has a bad habit of repeating this joke over and over and over again in their shows and movies, and it's getting really annoying. It's like Amy Schumer having only one joke about her kitten, and yeah, it's funny the first time, not the 10 times afterwards. And another thing that I find hilarious is that this suit primarily ran on solar and wind energy. Like, that is so bad because Tony had the arc reactor to power his suits, and over here Riri has installed solar panels on her armor. It's really funny to see her suit charging in standby mode by the small spinning turbines and some extra small solar panels. I think they would barely be able to light one bulb, let alone a suit of armor. But yeah, it's more funny than something that breaks the show, I guess. Another thing that I don't like is, well, Natalie. I immediately didn't like her from the trailers, although watching the show made her character grow on me. but she was still an unnecessary AI that needed to be removed by some plot point, I guess. And I mentioned this in my last review as well, that Natalie could probably sacrifice her life towards the end of the show to save Riri and say some, words of encouragement before she gets deleted or something. It would have been a really nice send off to Natalie and Riri could finally get some clarity as well. But no, they just decided to remove her for no reason whatsoever. And well, I guess there might be a reason. I think Mephisto is the one who took Natalie away so he could better manipulate Riri. And yeah, Natalie didn't even perform good as an AI. For instance, when Hood's gang steals Riri's suit, Natalie was surprised to see a warning that something was incoming. Like, an AI is surprised that something was incoming to get her. The reason I don't like her is because she acts more like a human than an AI, thus making her a bad AI assistant. Another thing that I didn't like is, well, Parker's rich dad. I just absolutely hate it. I wish he wasn't in this show at all. He is comically and cartoonishly evil. So it is revealed that he threw out Parker from his house when he was only 12 years old. It makes no sense. I know you have to give some motivation to your villain as well, but this was so bad that removing this plot point from the show would have made it even better. And then there's the final showdown between Riri and Hood. And calling it a showdown would be stretching it a bit because the final fight is more like a tussle at best. It was really disappointing. I wish they had spent some more money and done some better action and better choreography in the final fight. It was really underwhelming. And now I'm going to talk about the one thing that kind of ruined this whole show for me. It is the reason why I can't say that it is a really good show, and that is they ruined Riri's character journey. You know, the journey that a hero might go on so that he can become better by the end of it? Yeah, Marvel bulldozed that and threw dynamite on it and then nuked it for good measure. In the beginning of this show, Riri was selling projects to fellow students to make some quick cash, which is bad, and our character needs to realize that she has a problem, and to overcome it, she needs to go on a hero's journey. That's where the Hood comes in. Same dilemma, do something slightly bad for the greater good. Riri makes the wrong choice and decides to join the gang. And that's fine, because the Hood is a lesson for Riri that she needs to learn, except she doesn't learn any lesson. Because towards the end of the show, she sits down with Mephisto and accepts his deal again. We have come full circle. Riri is the same character as she was in the beginning of this show, doing bad things, expecting to achieve the greater good. For me, this destroyed this hero's journey. And also this twist ending is in poor taste because it means that you have to either wait for the second season to see if Riri's choice was actually worth it, or is she still on the hero's journey to learn from her mistakes. That said, the final scene with Mephisto was actually kinda really good. The way he shows her visions to trap her, to make her accept his proposal was actually really amazing. I loved it. But if I have to be devil's advocate, I would say that Riri is not selfish by the end of this show. In the beginning, Riri had her self-interest at forefront of her priorities. But by the end, she says that she accepts Mephisto's deal as long as she is the only one affected by this deal. This shows selflessness, but she's still falling into the trap of bad deals. Regardless, we will see how things go in the future. Whether this show gets a second season remains to be seen. I highly doubt it because 90% of Marvel shows don't get a second season anyways. Other than that, those are my thoughts. I also want to talk about her suits for a bit because I am a sucker for iron suits. That's why I really like Iron Man. Unfortunately, I am not a big fan of any of the suits in this show. The best one I've seen was at the beginning of this show when she leaves her university. It looked really sleek and futuristic. Not a big fan of the suit she makes in the middle of the show. It looks really tacky, and then her final suit wasn't any better. I hope Marvel can get some good artists to make her suit finalized and iconic like how Iron Man suits are. Okay, well, that's all the things I wanted to talk about. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and as always, it's time for a goodbye.